Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated.
It is the 4th day of November 2024 in East African capital, Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening and welcome to this broadcast where, according to our timelines, in just a few hours, the U.S. will be heading to its general election, the election that will determine its 47th president, among other leaders. Welcome to this live broadcast. We are coming to you live from our broadcasting headquarters in Nairobi. I am George Maringa. On sign language interpretation is Kelvin Makori, and we'll be having our panelists both here in studio and joining us all the way from the United States as we look at the U.S. decides. Here are the highlights.
Tonight, KCSE 2024 begins.
And any person, therefore, who is found compromising the integrity of the examination will be dealt with within the law.
Government issues stern warning to anyone involved in exams malpractices as close to 1 million students start their 2024 exams. Also tonight, government defends proposals to revisit some of the proposals on the controversial Finance Bill 2024.
There were so many good provisions in that bill that I don't think we should lose as a country. Some would help us make better the business environment. Some would also help government collect some revenue.
Plus, the main suspect in the murders of a mother, her daughter, and a 12-year-old niece detained for 21 days. And US election is here. Millions of Americans expected to cast their vote for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump.
We thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. On the socials, you can find us at TV47 News, at TV47 News KE, or at George Maringa _ use the hashtag Daily Report, hashtag Power and Politics. And on our guests tonight, we have Mark Bichachi. He is a communication strategist and analyst, as well as Stephen Degwa, an international relations expert. We shall also be joined from the United States by James Stanley, a political analyst, Benson Chesarek, another political analyst, as well as George Manyange, a freelancer based in the United States of America on that election. Let's get right into it, where Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has issued a stern warning against exam malpractice as he flagged off the distribution of 2024 large candidature KCSE papers. This year's exams introduce increased security protocols, extended breaks, and customized papers aimed at reducing exam irregularities. The exam is taking place in more than 10,700 centers with a record 965,000 candidates across the country.
At exactly 7 a.m. Monday, Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos flagged off the distribution of the 2024 KCSE large candidate examination papers, delivering a stern warning against any form of exam malpractice.
Candidates should therefore continue to make all their final necessary preparations, and any person therefore who is found compromising the integrity of the examination will be dealt with within the law.
Now in its third week, the 2024 KCSE exam officially began on October 22nd. Monday sessions kicked off with candidates tackling English functional skills at 8:30 a.m., followed by Chemistry Paper 1. This year's exams are being administered at 10,755 centers across the country, marking a record-breaking participation of 965,501 candidates, up from last year's 903,138.
This year, we have 965,501 candidates registered to sit the KCSE examination in 10,754 examination centers countrywide.
Education stakeholders were mobilized across the country to oversee the start of the KCSE examinations, with the Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang and Teachers Service Commission CEO Nancy Masharia stationed in Mombasa County. They reported that regional commissioners had implemented robust security measures, allowing the exams to commence smoothly in Mombasa and nationwide.
We have our colleagues from the police to provide the necessary security. We have our teachers to make sure that professional practice is maintained. We have our officers in the field to ensure that they support the teacher. So this year we are looking forward to a smooth run examination.
Under new measures introduced this year, strict protocols govern the security of exam papers. Each morning, exam containers across the country will be opened precisely at 7 a.m. and mobile devices will be securely locked away to prevent cheating.
In the time that the exam will be administered, this morning you are started with English paper 1. It is only a 2 hours paper. Inside those 2 hours, no one should be having a phone.
To support secure and timely delivery of exams to remote and border areas, the government has placed 6 helicopters on standby for the northeastern region. The choppers will be available to reach distant locations, including Gal, Magala and Garissa, Dif and Harar in Wajir, and Kotulo and Arabia in Mandera. Each county will have access to 2 helicopters as needed, ensuring that all candidates receive their exams on time. A notable change to the KCSE schedule this year is the extended break. Instead of the typical 30-minute interval, students will now have a 2.5-hour break between morning and afternoon exams, allowing time to recharge before tackling the day's second paper in the evening. This adjustment was first introduced in 2023 and appears likely to become the new norm. As part of security enhancements, the Ministry of Interior has deployed additional personnel to examination centers to ensure a smooth and incident-free examination period. PS Interior Raymond Omolo indicated that extra security measures have been put in place in regions prone to insecurity, with candidates in these areas transferred to safer locations to ensure they can complete the examinations without disruption.
Kule katika Tana River na kwingine kote ambao kulikuwa na shida yoyote ya security, ministry ilipanga kuondoa wale wanafanya examinations, wale learners wakapelekwa kwa centers za security agents like GSU camps.
I'm happy to note that so far we have not had any major security incident to be worried about, and we expect that this is going to be the situation throughout the rest of the coming days.
This year's exams feature another distinct aspect. Each candidate's paper is customized with their name, index number and personal details pre-printed. This personalized approach underscores accountability, as any rule breaking will directly implicate the individual candidate.
Candidates should therefore continue to make all their final necessary preparations, and any person therefore who is found compromising the integrity of the examination will be dealt with within the law.
As students across the country tackle their exams, the ministry's focus remains on upholding fairness, integrity and security, ensuring that the KCSE examination period runs smoothly and sets a high standard for future exams. Anne Odida, TV47.
Thank you, Odida, for that report. Still on matters KCSE, as the KCSE exams kick off, a somber mood has engulfed Kamaro Day Secondary School in Meru County following the death of a Form 4 KCSE candidate just hours before the commencement of the national exam. This even as 4 other candidates from Kakamega and Kericho counties sit their exams from hospital beds. Andrin Kilemi reports.
Day 1 of KCSE theory papers witnessed shocking incidents as one candidate out of the over 960,000 succumbed to death in Kamaro Day Secondary School, Tigania West, Meru County.
Tunasikitika kwamba hadi kufikia saa 6 za usiku leo tumempoteza mvulana mwanafunzi mmoja ambaye anatoka katika maeneo ya Tigania.
This even as a number of other candidates from Kakamega, Kericho and Bungoma counties were forced to sit their national exams from hospital beds following various health issues. In Kakamega County, 3 female candidates are sitting their exams from Kakamega Referral Hospital as they await to give birth.
All these students are our focus, and we have ensured we have embraced a multi-agency approach strategy to ensure that the security, the center managers, the principals, and even our Ngao fraternity, we shall move and ensure that there is integrity in exams, because we shall even distribute the exams and follow up.
In West Pokot County, a peaceful exam environment is reported with an 18.4% increase in candidature compared to last year. In a proactive measure, the government has stationed 6 helicopters ready to support the delivery of exam materials to remote and border regions if need arises.
Tuko macho katika idara ya security kuhakikisha kwamba mitihani haya yanaendelea vizuri bila dosari yoyote.
Despite these challenges, the Ministry of Education has assured parents and other education stakeholders that all necessary measures are in place to ensure the exams proceed smoothly and securely across the country. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you, Andrin. Hashim Dagane Muhammad, the main suspect in the murders of Martha, her daughter and her 12-year-old niece will spend the next 21 days in after a law court granted a miscellaneous application by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. The DCI has submitted to the court that the suspect is a flight risk, and as Hashim's nationality is in question, even as they work round the clock to gather more evidence into the brutal killings of the 3 women. Moige William was in court for the proceedings and filed the following report.
A court filled to its brim
apprehensively seated at the edge of a bench in handcuffs where plainclothes officers glued to every movement his body makes, Hashim Dagane Mohammed, the main suspect in the murder of 3 family members. A mother, Tahabo Daoud, daughter Nusaiba Abdi, and 12-year-old niece Amina Abdirashid was arraigned in court on Monday. Hashim, following keenly, the prosecution submitted a miscellaneous application. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations in a sworn affidavit by Sergeant Mohammed Hassan from the Homicide Division requested 21 days to hold the suspect so as to conclude the investigations.
Since the investigation involves 3 victims, he needs time to document and gather evidence sufficient to prove the case.
The magistrate at the Makadara Law Courts granted the application in which Hashim will be held at the Ruaraka police station. The DCI, citing the suspect, said to be the owner of the Nissan Note car captured on CCTV cameras, picking the deceased from their Isili home on October 21st, 2024, hours before their bodies were discovered scattered at various locations, is a flight risk as his nationality is in question. Within the precincts of the Makadara Law Courts, family members of the deceased, including the husband to Waris Dahabo Daoud and father to Nusaiba Abdi, keenly followed the Monday proceedings, their eyes fixated on the man believed to be behind their now misery of losing their loved ones in the country's shocking killings.
And this has been a very hard time, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a sabr for all my family, and I'm getting emotional at this time.
In a separate incident, police in Kahawa West, Kiambu County have launched a manhunt of George Mutegi, believed to have murdered Lilian Acheng Aluko, who was found dead in Mutegi's 3-bedroom apartment on November 1st, 2024. Acheng was a presenter at a local radio station. President William Ruto on Sunday committed that the government will go all out to combat cases of femicide in the country. And the wheels of justice are in motion. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations hunting for more suspects involved in the murders. Mwege William for TV47 at the Makadara Law Courts, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwege. Tonight, 2 men convicted of murdering a 34-year-old Ugandan Olympian Benjamin Kiplagat will be sentenced by the Eldoret High Court tomorrow. Peter Ushuru Halumi and David Ekai Lokere were found guilty in the brutal New Year's Eve killing of the 3,000-meter steeplechase star. The court cited compelling scientific evidence and CCTV footage placing the suspects at the scene, showing them chasing Kiplagat moments before his tragic death. Justice Ruben Nyakundi is set to deliver the sentencing on Tuesday after a 9-month-long harrowing hearing. The government has defended plans to go ahead with select clauses of the previously scrapped Finance Bill 2024. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi now insists that the policies must be passed, especially new taxes in the digital realm. Hibak Said now reports.
Treasury and Economic Planning Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi now affirms that the government will be going forward with plans to widen the tax collection net to feed the growing expenditure appetite, saying the economic standing of the country calls for adjusted taxation regimes. The government is seeking to bridge the 346 billion Kenyan shilling deficit following the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. New measures are likely to be put in place by the taxman.
If it is wrong, but it is not, I've not been told by my boss that it is wrong. Actually, my boss told me supporting. So let us go that route. Those who are supposed to pay taxes, lipa ushuru, sindio?
Among them will be the expansion of the digital market in the proposed amendment of the income tax to include more digital operators. The government will also seek to introduce a minimum tax top-up, a measure that will target multinational companies to pay a minimum tax of 15%. Other measures include the introduction of withholding tax on goods that are supplied to public entities at a rate of 0.5%. Employees will also be required to increase their limit for pension contribution to 30,000 a month, as well as an introduction of economic presence tax if the proposal sails through.
There were so many good provisions in that bill that I don't think we should lose as a country. Some would help us make better the business environment. Some would also help government collect some revenue without hurting those who should not be hurt. So I have made a proposal. I'll put it on the table. There is nobody who has pushed me to it. It's not IMF. I told you, the president did not appoint a conman. I am not conning Kenyans.
Other measures include the taxation of infrastructure bonds, KRA PIN to be made mandatory if working remotely, while affordable housing and SHA tax will be made deductible. Treasury has cast blame on the Kenya Revenue Authority's system of operation.
And by the way, we don't need to tax Kenyans more to raise that. We just need discipline at KRA and system enhancement. And we get our 400 billion clean. And we discharge those external lenders. We tell them, you have to beg us.
This as the CS affirms thorough public participation in the coming bill tabling, saying Kenyans must pay tax for sustainable development growth. And while the Treasury insists that the Finance Bill 2024 might have been quote-unquote poisoned, there are some clauses that will be making a comeback, as the CS John Mbadi now says that these clauses will be debated in Parliament and some of them might come into effect, but with public participation. He says that revenue collection has only been impeded by the negligence of the Kenya Revenue Authority. Backside for TV47 Nairobi.
Thank you, Hibak. Opposition leaders now say they will form an alliance that will put the broad-based government in check. The leaders are now accusing the government of failing to fulfill its promises to Kenyans. Isaac Famba reports.
On their second day tour of the Western region, the opposition leaders were in Trans Nzoia County. They emphasized that their plans were at an advanced stage to form an alliance that will put the Kenya Kwanza government in check. The opposition parties have pledged to join hands to form another opposition alliance that will challenge both Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza government, accusing the two of working together to undermine the constitution of Kenya.
So we are very focused, na kama hiyo unahodha huo utakabidhiwa sisi, I can assure you, hatutaangusha hicho kijikiti. Ushindi ni wazi. In fact, nadhani itakuwa hera marudufu mara 3 mara 2, because vile wa Kenya wako na hasira yote ambayo yanafanyika huku, utekwaje nyara wa uchumi wa bunge lenyewe. Sasa we have been also observing what's happening kwa idara yetu ya
DAP Kenya was the recent party to announce plans to part ways with Azimio One Kenya alliance. The leaders say that the new alliance they will form the next government.
Time will tell. All we can tell Kenyans is that watch this space. We are just a few days to the new year, and there are new things that are coming. And I believe there will be a new coalition. I believe there will be a new government. And I believe that this is the team ambayo itaokoa Kenya.
A section of leaders in the central region are pushing Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka to be the captain of that political ship, while promising to support him in 2027 elections.
Tunataka kuambia watu wetu wa hapa Kitale ya kwamba tuko kwa hiyo coalition led by Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, ndiye atakuwa president wetu come 2027. Watu wote wa mlima na watu wote wa Gema, sisi yote tumekubaliana.
The leaders spoke when they paid a homage to the memory of the 8th Vice President Michael Omalo Kijana in Kitale today. Isaac Famba, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Famba. The Orange Democratic Movement ODM party has finally announced its grassroots elections slated for November 27th after postponing due to heavy rains across the country in April this year. A message sent to the party's members by the National Elections Coordinating Committee, NEC, the elections will now be held at polling stations in all 47 counties. The committee said there will be elections of 30 party officials, 10 each from the 3 committees at each polling center, namely the Mainstream, Women League and Youth League. The Mainstream elections will include positions of chairperson, vice chairperson and secretary, organizing secretary, treasurer, women leader, youth leader and 3 committee members. Now talks are at an advanced stage over the Rironi-Mau Summit Road. A meeting between President William Ruto and Li Ji, a member of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China and a Central Committee, has also revealed that there are talks on the extension of SGR 2B from Naivasha to Kisumu and SGR 2C, that is Kisumu to Malaba.
Kenya says that talks are at an advanced discussion over the Rironi-Mau Summit Road, the extension of SGR 2B Naivasha to Kisumu and SGR 2C Kisumu Malaba, while commended China for ongoing works on Jamhuri Stadium, which is set to host AFCON in 2027.
Over the past 2 years, Your Honorable have met with President Xi Jinping twice. In particular, in September this year, during the FOCAC Beijing Summit, you also met with His Excellency President Xi Jinping, and you agreed that Kenya and China should be sincere partners of mutual trust, cooperative partners of mutual benefit and win-win results, and strategic partners in upholding fairness and justice.
Kenya and China are working together in the implementation of development projects in the country to realize the two countries' strategic partnership, as Kenya eagerly positions to reap project benefits in transformative development and alleviate poverty.
This has pointed out the direction for the development of our relations under the new circumstances. I'm here in Kenya with the CPC delegation to implement the important common understandings between you and President Xi Jinping, as well as the outcomes of the FOCAC Beijing Summit, so as to promote the in-depth and continuous development of our comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership.
Mr. Li, the lead delegate, emphasized China's support for a people-centered approach to national development, including the provision of quality education, healthcare, job creation, environmental protection and preservation.
It was an honor, Your Excellency, for me to join President Xi and fellow African heads of state and government under the Beijing Action Plan 2025 in setting a common strategic plan for the partnership between our continent and China, and Kenya, I want to assure you, is committed to promoting this partnership across Africa and also upholding the One China policy.
President Ruto conveyed disquiet over bids to emasculate the prominence of the United Nations office at Nairobi, the sole UN headquarters in Africa, over attempts to relocate Nairobi-based UN agencies.
We are very happy to note that under the leadership of Your Honorable, Kenya is enjoying a sound momentum of economic development with increasing regional and international influence. We congratulate you on your efforts.
For TV47, I'm Willie Dennis Njiru.
Thank you, Willie Dennis Njiru, for that report. We are taking a short break. When we come back, we have more news on the other side of this break, including that conversation on the US elections slated for tomorrow. Do stay with us.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
It is exactly 33 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa, and Kelvin Makori on Sign Language Interpretation. The Judiciary has called for independence in serving justice to Kenyans. Chief Justice Martha Koome, while hosting the 12th anniversary of the Supreme Court, has called upon various actors to uphold the rule of law and protect constitutional rights. President Ruto, who opened the conference, noted that the Apex Court has pronounced itself on a broad range of pertinent issues across the legal landscape. Joash Ansare reports.
The Supreme Court commemorated the 12th anniversary of the court's establishment.
Over the past 12 years, the Supreme Court has played a transformative role in shaping both Kenya's jurisprudence and shaping our country's socio-political development.
It has helped us reject the many false dichotomies that once constrained our policies and politics.
President William Ruto, speaking during the opening of the Supreme Court at 12 conference hosted by the Chief Justice Martha Koome, Ruto noted that the Apex Court has pronounced itself on a broad range of pertinent issues across the legal landscape.
Beyond serving as the ultimate arbiter, the Supreme Court is a driver of national development. Its decisions shape our institutional framework, define our socio-economic landscape, and guide our path towards an equitable society where justice underpins our development.
The president's sentiments were backed by his deputy Kithure Kindiki and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who emphasized the critical importance of the judiciary's commitment to fighting corruption and upholding principles of integrity and fairness.
Court has also done very well in terms of the infrastructure, the software, the technology bit. And among the arms of government and the agencies of government, I think the judiciary is ahead of the rest of us.
The Supreme Court has the power to set precedents and to reinforce the standards of integrity and fairness that echo through all sectors of our government.
The Chief Justice, Martha Koome, has called upon various actors in serving justice to uphold the rule of law and protect constitutional rights.
Upholding the rule of law and protecting constitutional rights is a collective responsibility that calls for cooperation and respect among the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive.
Through landmark decisions, advisory opinions in moments of national impasse, and precedents, we have strengthened our democratic foundation, and I believe the Supreme Court has continually sought to ensure that justice prevails for all Kenyans.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Josh. The U.S. election is presenting another historic moment where 78-year-old Republican candidate Donald Trump will face off a 60-year-old Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Donald Trump's policies include a number of tax cuts worth trillions, including an extension of his 2017 cuts, which mostly helped the wealthy. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, has made abortion rights central to her campaign, and she continues to advocate for legislation that would enshrine reproductive rights nationwide. Here is more on the policies that the candidates stand for.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Pension bodies believe the government could come to less yearly expenditure if they are involved in government projects as investors. CPF Group Managing Director Jose Akili now says the government could leverage on financial bodies' asset basis to run cost-effective infrastructure frameworks. This as the government affirms that projects are awarded on merit basis and local potential investors are as welcome to participate if they can deliver.
One of the challenges we had was, can we really put up our resources to scale and, for example, convince the government that we can actually do a big projects? And I remember I actually told the president, if we were given a chance as the pension industry, we could have come together and put up the the expressway, which we have all seen in Nairobi here. It's been delivered by a Chinese conglomerate. That project costed not more than, I think, 70 or 80 billion.
Then I think we have solutions to our problems. We have just not sat down to think through and put our minds on how to actualize some of these things. Kenyan economy is not doing so badly as people think.
Indeed, the business community wants a predictable tax regime, which they blame on the high prices of locally made products. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers now wants more involvement in the taxation policy formation process. In response, Investments and Industry Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya says this is being addressed through the Business Laws Amendment Bill of 2024 that will also streamline the issue of double taxation on packaging materials.
We had this publication last Friday, basically running through the sections of laws that we are changing. This business amendment bill is amending 18 acts of parliament, and it is also having 57 clauses or sections. And basically this is meant also to enhance and enable the business environment. For example, what we have done in that bill, we have introduced import levy for specific products, which are going to be levied because we want to promote local manufacturing. And the other thing we have changed is the procurement law to enhance Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. So we have made a provision there for a percentage of local content to be purchased locally, and that is going to enhance Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. We have also amended the Ken Invest law to basically also recognize that we have foreign direct investments that happen in our country, and we want to enhance registration and recognition of investments. Alongside that, we also want to enhance a much more facilitative business environment by making sure that those who are doing business facilitation, especially individuals, are also properly registered and recognized.
The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has announced Ahmed Farah as the new Chief Executive Officer, taking over from Patrick Nyangweso, who held the position since 2023. Farah takes the helm of the institution amidst management challenges that have significantly debilitated the institution since Patrick's ouster.
Sports News brought to you.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Good evening and welcome to this discussion on the U.S. elections 2024. My name is George Maringa. Sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. In just a few hours, the United States of America will head into an election to elect their 47th president. Will it be Donald Trump, the Republican candidate and former president, or will it be Vice President and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris? And what especially do these elections and the results mean for our country, especially Kenya? Tonight, we are privileged to be joined by a panel of guests, both here in Nairobi and joining us from the U.S. Here in the studio, I'm joined by Mark Bichachi on my immediate right. He is an analyst and communications strategist. Thank you and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Stephen Degwa is an international relations expert. Welcome, Stephen. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. And joining us from the U.S. is James Stanley, a political analyst, Benson Cheserek, business and political analyst, as well as George Manyange. He's a freelancer in the USA and a graduate student. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Right, let's get the discussion on the road, and I'll begin with you, Mark. There is a lot of hue and cry, and whenever the U.S. sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold.
Yes.
Of what importance is it, especially for Kenya, to follow and notice keenly the election in the U.S.? Why is it so relevant, one would ask in the first place?
There are a number of reasons, and let's start here. Let me pick up from your analogy that if the United States catches a flu, then the whole world catches a very high fever. We must remember that the world is already at fever pitch. We must remember, for example, that there's still a war going on in Ukraine. There's still the Israel-Palestine issue, and there's still the next door to the United States, there's the Haiti issue, and many other issues in the world. So what is going to happen in the States is going to affect all of these regions. It is going to affect it in major ways. Now, Kenya is involved in two ways. It's involved in the peacekeeping mission in Haiti, but also it is affected by the fortunes of the Russia-Ukraine battle. By that I mean our food prices are affected by that particular battle and things like that. So it is important that Kenya follows that. But also, Kenya was recently designated a key NATO ally, and what that does is it means that Kenya is closely linked, at least in terms of international diplomacy and international relations, closely linked to the United States, but also more so since these particular discussions happened with the Democrats. What would it mean if Donald Trump was to come in? So, for example, if we are to look at the Israel-Gaza Strip debacle, we know for a fact that Donald Trump has told Israel that it needs to do what it needs to do. So we expect an escalation in Israel, whereas if Trump wins, if I was Zelensky, I would surrender the next day.
The next day.
Yes.
Before we cross over to the gentleman in the United States, Stephen, yes, in terms of relations, international relations, yes, Kenya and the U.S. marked 60 years, yes, culminated in a state visit. Yes. Of what importance would the decision of the 5th of November have on the relations between Kenya and the U.S.?
I think, first of all, I will take it from where Bikachi left just a bit and touch on the importance of, or the geopolitical importance of the elections of the U.S. to the world.
Yes.
It's good that we are checking all this, and I saw one of our local journalists who is in CNN, on CNN, interviewing people on the streets today, and Kenyans are saying that they love Trump. So, and I think there's a way in that. I will not go into our local politics of why people want Trump to come in. but then America as it is now, it's the barometer of democracy in the world. And we can see that it is starting, it's a giant, yes, but it's starting to wobble a bit, okay? America is not the America that used to be there. You can see even in Africa now, African countries are standing up to the US. If what we go by the press, Niger, for example, Botswana is the latest to tell the US, you know what, you need to pack up your bases and, leave us alone. So there is that significance, yes, but it is because there's no other power right now, okay? So the US elections are important because then if Trump comes in, we can predict. You know, Trump actually is predictable. Going by the first time, we can predict what is going to happen. Yeah, and even with the state visit, we might start forgetting a lot of things that the U.S. has promised, and not even that the U.S. were to give us. Anyway, to be honest, that is a lot of tokenism, which was supposed to send just some symbolic message to the rest of Africa that, you know, if you play ball with us, we can, you know, we can do this. And Africa is becoming, and the US can see Africa is becoming restless. So they needed to start showing some semblance of, you know, interest in Africa. So I think going forward, Africa is not in the radar so much in these elections. Actually, the two big issues that are being canvassed is the not even the Ukraine-Russia right now. It's the Israel-Hamas. That is a major issue now. Okay. Okay. Russia and Ukraine seem to be taking a back, you know, a back whatever. But the Israel-Gaza has, I mean, Israel-Hamas has a bigger geopolitical importance because of the Middle East, and we know that when the Middle East is unstable, then actually the whole world is unstable, especially in oil and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
James Stanley, thank you for joining us from the US. There have been concerns, and you know, especially from the Kenyan community, going by the reports we are getting of the fears of either you know, candidates coming in. What is the mood like, especially on the victory of either candidates from Kenyans? What are you getting from the ground? Yeah, we will be getting back to James in a short while. Benson, good evening. How are you? How is it in North Carolina, especially with the Kenyan community as well?
I think this is
we seem to have a stream issue. We'll be getting that fixed. Gentlemen, I don't know whether George Manyanga, you can hear us. You're outside the White House? Okay, fine. We'll be fixing a few issues here and there to be able to get our guests from North Carolina, Washington, D.C. as well. But just back to you, Bichachi. There has been a lot of expectation and, you know, speculation about who could win this election. And the Kenyan community, I'm sure you've seen the reports on that. Should they be worried over anything? If need be?
Not really. The kind of agreements that Kenya has and the kind of relationships that Kenya has will not vary on whether the fortunes fall on the Republican or Democrat side. I don't see Kamala Harris coming and doing quite a big change to what Biden would have done, and I don't see Trump doing that either. Although Kenya has been locked in a trade conversation with the United States for the better part of 6 years now that we are yet to conclude. And then, of course, there is the trade pact that was there for Africa that is due to lapse in 2025. So that's going to be the free access agreement, AGOA, when it comes to an end. What is going to happen? I think that is in terms of our economy, the biggest thing to watch out for. But I do not think that either Trump or Harris will change significantly how that agreement would have come into place or how replacing AGOA is going to be, because they clearly have higher priorities. But number two, we must also speak to why Kenyans feel quite connected to this issue, and that's the issue of religion and what the Americans will call LGBTQ rights. And there's a very strong feeling, Kenya being religious, as we know, that Trump represents the right and moral path, and Harris represents freedom for the LGBTQ. So that is a psychological issue, given that the pressures of the West do do affect how Kenyans and indeed Africans have made these choices before. We've seen documentaries of how the decision to be quite tough on LGBTQ issues in Uganda was affected by the Americans, but that is not going to be affected by who is president because the NGOs and the different organizations that push either side of the agenda will continue to do what they're doing. So in terms of Kenyans' fortunes and things like that, it's all going to affect. In fact, either president will want Kenya to work harder in Haiti, for example. They will want to keep our forces there and probably even bolster it, because clearly immigration is another big issue in this election, and Trump has said, for example, that Haitians are eating dogs and cats and things like that. It might be taken as a joke, but I'll tell you as a communications person, it's a strong issue. If I want to scare you, I either tell you your wife, your children, or your pets are in danger, and that is part of the psychological impact that it is having. So it is very clear that those will be the issues, but for Kenya economically, we should be fine. I think the bigger issue would be around our moral compass and where we feel like either Harris or Trump is leading this world, literally, because that's what they do, towards.
Stephen, when we look at even the events that have happened, especially between Kenya and the United States, the African continent as a whole, the conversation about the BRICS, joining the BRICS as well. Is it at a point, and of course you saw what CS Mbadi said about the IMF and whatever was happening there.
Going to line up in Washington.
Yeah, lining up in Washington.
Yeah.
The conversation, especially on economic partnerships, is really key between Kenya and the United States. Where are we now? Are we at a time where, we will see a proper trajectory going upwards?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think I'm cynical about what Kenya, as a symbol of Africa, can gain from the US. If you look at what the US has done in Kenya, it's basically firefighting for us, okay? The US brings millions of dollars worth of condoms, worth of malaria drugs, worth of, things that are supposed to alleviate our problems, yeah? But you tell them to put the same kind of money in developing our infrastructure, our healthcare system, and whatever, physical benefits. They don't. So if you look at AGOA, for example, can you say it has transformed any region in Kenya? There's AGOA, there's always shifting of goals. Okay, shifting of goals. When you're going to achieve them, they say, okay, there's a new set of rules, AGOA, If you want to bring horticulture, these are the new standards, the new EU standards, to take the conversation out to the West in general. So I think what we as Kenyans, as the symbol of Africa, must decide is what do we want, because we cannot continue to be beggars, and beggars have no choice, okay? So whoever comes in, actually we are irrelevant. It is just that now they cannot tell us, because they need us for their own interests. Because unless something is of particular interest to the US, they will not put so much trouble in it, okay? And I said as far, apart from the firefighting. So I think it's for us to start demanding some form of equal treatment when it comes to negotiations. So I don't know how our leadership can do that, but there's a way that we can get concessions from the US. So we tell them, if you want to have, for example, a military base in Kenya, it's not for free. We should be able to get real value, from them. I was looking at Ireland for just the other day. Ireland now have a budget surplus of I don't know how many billions of dollars. And I was looking at why they have that is because they find Google, I don't know how much money, and all that. They get money from people who owe them money. So they got it from them, okay? If you look at Russia, has also found Google, I don't know how many zillions. So I think it must come to a point where we have leaders in Kenya and in Africa. I think I like to say Africa because Kenya to the US is really very small, and that is why sometimes they will laugh at us if we start talking about flexing our muscles in terms of what kind of trade relations we can have with them. Because just go and look at how much we trade with America, and look at even how a country like China, for example, trades with America. for us, what the trade with Kenya and the US is pocket money, okay? It's pocket change. When you look at, you know, the big boys, you know, even the US and Britain, the US and France and all that. So we are really small fry. So we must look at our niche. We must stop overrating ourselves, sit down and have a sober discussion about how we can get hold of these guys. Because for me, I'm sorry, but we are irrelevant in the bigger scheme of things. So, yes.
Well, you know, the truth is that Kenya's economy is smaller in magnitude than Elon Musk's value. As in this,
that's the point.
That's the reality.
Yes.
Elon Musk is trending towards 200 billion valuation. Kenya is at 110 billion. So he can buy us, our mothers, our children, our land and our chickens, and the United States economy will not change. So that's really how it is. However, Kenya is strategically important. One, it is the entry point to East Africa. And East Africa is a big part of Africa. Number two, Kenya is known as the big brother and the peacemaker in the region. When Ethiopia wants negotiators, they come from Kenya. South Sudan, they come from Kenya. We saw one of the leaders of the fight between Hemedti was in Nairobi, seeking solutions from Nairobi. So in terms of the geopolitical influence and as a gateway to Eastern Africa, Nairobi and Kenya is very critical. It's very important. It's not something that the United States can ignore. But also one of the things that is very important is that Kenya's ability to stand with the United States, stand with our allies in Europe, for example, as we've done in the EU and many other issues, is also very important. So it's a matter of leveraging our soft power versus the economic power to make that possible. But also at the same time, and this also becomes very important, you see that the United States, for example, is giving a ban to TikTok. Now, it's no small matter for one country to ban another's software. It's digital warfare. And soon Kenya will be caught up in that warfare, in the sense that will we be looking east or will we be looking west? There is the question of how much will Kenya be depending on the United States. So whereas the economic matters may not seem significant, the position and posture of Kenya throughout the history of its independence has become quite important for the states and other players that want to play. So yes, we do play an important role significantly. The United States has to figure out how they're putting in another $100 million into the Haiti program to make sure that continues, because whether they like it or not, Kenya is the only one who's willing to carry that burden for them. So there are places and avenues that we can actually negotiate and actually get our pound of flesh out of the deal.
Stephen,
yes.
Donald Trump has questioned the existence of NATO, and Kenya is a non-NATO ally. Bichachi alluded to that.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't seem to be an issue of concern really to Kamala,
yes.
Especially if, you know, Donald Trump were to win. What ramifications does this have, especially with this non-NATO ally membership that Kenya has? If you could debunk that for us and for our viewers.
Okay, I think from the beginning I saw the non-NATO ally kind of, it was a tokenism. I'll go back to that, yeah? Because it is just an enticement so that we can do the US bidding, okay? We are like another Ukraine. You can see the way Ukraine was used as a buffer against Russia. And now they have really been bombed, and I mean, and that seems to be fading away now and leaving Russia and Ukraine to their own devices, okay? So in Kenya being that, I think the US wants to use us, for example, in Haiti. You see, if someone wants to use you, they must inflate your ego, okay? Because you're a small boy, but someone will tell you, okay, go fight, you know, you can fight that guy, you know? So you start feeling like you're David against Goliath, but in essence, it is, you know, I mean, even in school, you know, you can beat him, and then when you go there, you are hit, you know, a bad one, yeah? So I think if Trump comes, I think that would be a gone case. Actually, if Trump comes to power, I think a lot of what was done between Biden and Ruto is going to, Trump might not just trash it, but it will be off the radar, okay? If Kamala comes, there'll be maybe a constituent within the Democrats government that will still want that to go continue. But basically, I think we are just being used again as a bulwark against some maybe other interests, It's like now, because the youth has been unable to get hold of us in terms of infrastructure and all that, but they can get hold of our minds, okay? So once they tell us so we are going to be having that for the next, several years, walking tall, but we are not going to get any benefit, because for me, is what benefit are we getting from getting this, apart from the PR, okay? So I think it's inconsequential either way, anyway.
If you could just hold that thought so that we engage James Stanley. He's back. Just hold that, Bichachi. James Stanley, good evening from Nairobi. How are you? Earlier on, I had asked you how is the mood of the Kenyan community in the US regarding especially this election?
As I said, I Washington State, and basically the mood is very awful from the perspective of people looking at it back home. But here, as we can see, can you hear me?
Yeah, go on, James. Can you hear me, James?
Hello, can you hear? I can hear you.
Yes, please continue.
Okay, I was saying, yeah, when you look back from home, they think that because of the campaign that is going on, one presidential candidate, that is Donald Trump, when he talked of the immigrants, one thing that we want to assure people back home that the immigrant here, people are worried back home because they think, when Donald Trump comes in, he's gonna chase everyone because he's saying that. But as we know, there's the political strategy that one comes with. The political strategies that one comes with. And one person said that one of the presidential candidates, that's Harris Kamara, is more in supporting the rights of the LGBTQ, and DT is more in saying that the immigration has to be put in place. But I believe, like we always, nothing will change to other countries, because anytime the president comes, the policies are there, the constitution is there. And when they talk of the people to be sent away, they are criminal people. And I believe specifically people from Africa, they want. And all we are waiting is tomorrow, everyone to cast their vote, and the president is declared, and we keep going, building the economy of the United States.
Okay, indeed. Thank you, James. We'll be coming to you again a little bit later on. James. Benson Chesrek, you are a business and political analyst. On matters trade, Kamala Harris has criticized Trump's sweeping plan to impose tariffs on the imports and calling it a national tax on working families, which will cost each household $4,000 a year. On Trump, however, he has said he will continue with his 2017 policies of not taxing the rich, and that also has been an issue of debate. Talk about the trickle-down effects, especially not only in the US, but also in Africa, and especially Kenya, and how this would be able to impact the economic and, infrastructure as well, rather economic and trade partnerships, especially between the two countries.
Thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to some of your guests momentarily, and the three very important issues that are going on here in the United States right now, and which is on the top of everything, is the inflation. It is women right issue, which is reproductive health, and the other one is immigration, of which my friend James just spoke about the immigration issues.
Yeah.
When we talk about the issue of inflation, taxation, and everything. Each of them have different views.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is the approach of Donald Trump is you tax companies that bring things to the United States. In other words, if you manufacture things in Kenya, for instance, and you bring to the United States, Kamala Harris says we provide incentives to people here to be able to invest in the United States. So those are two different aspects of businesses that at the end of the day, or it will achieve one goal, to bring or to boost investments locally. And the scariest thing that I think most Americans don't like is the importation of things from China. If you impose a lot of tariffs, that means that whatever is imposed in the tariff, it's like if you impose tariffs on things that we import to our country. And that is that both, and you can see perception from both sides is different, but at the end of the day, they look into where the cost of things will go down. And that is one of the key issues when I say economy is the main cause here. And they view Donald Trump as the strongest guy in economy. And you can see majority of people will try to vote for him based on that. But when it comes down to the decision specifically, I live in North Carolina where economy is based on research. A lot of companies are coming here. There are very, very tiny margins might decide who will be the president of the United States.
Yeah, George Manyange, you're outside the White House. It's what I'd learned earlier. How is it like for you, and especially you as a student, a graduate student, in terms of young people who have, sought to explore, opportunities further afield? What are they saying, especially regarding this election?
Thank you for having me, George. I'm at outside the White House, and right now they are kind of barricading the place, as you can see behind me. Preparing the place for the military parade for the new administration, which is set to take over on January 21st, whoever wins between Kamala and President Donald Trump. So the big issue among the Gen Zs and the young voters who have interacted with, it's the issue of economy, the issue of immigration, the issue of foreign policy, the issue of democracy, and also the issue of inflation. So those are the main issues which are being discussed. And when it comes to economy, Donald Trump is being touted as being one of the best, because some of the voters think when he was in charge during his first term, the economy was doing well. Right now, when Joe Biden took over, we kind of saw there's a bit of inflation, but right now the inflation is almost 2.1%. When it comes to the issue of reproductive rights in women, Donald Trump, the Republicans, you remember the Roe versus Wade, which was, they got rid of the Roe versus Wade. Right now, Donald Trump wants to impose federal law when it comes to ban abortion federally. So, and on the other end, Kamala Harris supports the issue of abortion. When it comes to the issue of LGBTQ rights, Kamala Harris has started to be supporting the issue of LGBTQ rights compared to Donald Trump. When it comes to the issue of foreign policy, you've kind of seen what's happening in the Middle East. We have seen the Biden foreign policy when it comes to the Middle East. You've seen some tensions in Iran, you've seen some tensions in Lebanon, you've seen some tensions in Gaza and Israel. And Donald Trump, actually, one of his campaigns said when he takes over, he's going to ensure that when he's elected, like a president-elect, when he's confirmed with the Electoral Commission, he's going to talk to Putin, and he's also going to talk to Netanyahu over there, and that war is going to end. That's what he said. And also, the issue of foreign policy is kind of a big issue for the United States, because when it comes to its allies like Israel, and also we have seen the other end, the Ukrainian war, and also most countries in NATO prefer Kamala compared to Donald Trump. You saw what happened in his first administration, in his first term during his administration. When it comes to the issue of democracy, more people think Kamala Harris will do better when it comes to democracy compared to Donald Trump. Reason being, you saw what happened on January 6th. During the insurrection, where some of his supporters actually attacked the Capitol. And right now, it all comes down to the 7 swing states. Whoever wins, it comes down to North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and South Carolina. So whoever wins, if Kamala wants to be elected to become the first woman president, she has to win the blue wall. That means she has to win Pennsylvania, she has to win Michigan, she has to win Wisconsin. For Trump, if he wants to get back and be the next president for his second term, he has to win Georgia, he also has to win North Carolina, he has to win either of Pennsylvania or Michigan, and he also has to ensure that he takes over Nevada, because these are the only swing states which actually are going to decide who's going to be the next president. Because right now, it's dead heat, neck to neck. No one can predict who's going to be the president. It all comes down to those 7 swing states. Whoever is going to win those 7 swing states, 4 out of the 7 is going to be the next president of the United States of America.
Indeed, a neck-and-neck race, a tight race is what we are witnessing in this 2024 election. We are taking a short break, still with my guests here in studio and those who are joining us from the US. Do stay with us. We are back in a short while.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers at 8 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report. The U.S. decides 2024. Tonight is what we're discussing. James Stanley, a political analyst, joining us from the U.S., Washington, D.C. Benson Cheserek, business and political analyst from North Carolina, and George Manyange, freelancer in the USA. Earlier on, Benson, George gave us an outline of the swing states, the red and blue states as well. From your projection and from where you sit, where do you see this going?
Okay, so at the moment, actually the former president just wrapped up a rally less than 1 hour ago here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It is one of the most critical for him to win. This state was won by Obama twice. Biden nearly won it in 2020, but it's a very funny state because they elect a Democratic governor and sometimes they can elect the president. Yesterday, the two vice presidents, Walz and J.D. Vance, were here. And they are trying every single thing to win every vote. So, like my friend George had said, if you don't win Pennsylvania and the blue wall, which is Michigan, Wisconsin, and probably Nevada and Arizona, then you are done. But Pennsylvania is extremely important. You can even see the nervousness of most of the politicians here, the commentators in almost every channel. So the other critical important state here is probably Georgia, because Georgia has been traditionally a Republican state, but over the last two elections, Joe Biden was able to flip it to the Democrats. And in an event that he wins Georgia, Kamala Harris wins Georgia, chances are he will win the presidency. Back to North Carolina here, there are only two counties which are very populated, which is the Wake County here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where Donald Trump has left. And we have Mecklenburg County, which is one of the biggest Democratic blocs that actually votes here. If Kamala Harris wins those ones by huge margins, and they have been here multiple times, great chances that she could win this state of North Carolina. And to wrap up your point, I think what is very important here, and this is very important likely to your audience and some of the analysts that you had on the channel there.
Yes.
The U.S. domestic foreign policy and their foreign policy and their domestic policy are two different things. What Kenyans need to understand is if Donald Trump takes in, a lot of the things in the U.S. foreign policy will probably it will not be removed, but it will be paused because he has a take in how can he reduce some of the things from going? How can he maybe cut some of the foreign aid that comes through the US aid? So those are some of the most important. Kamala Harris and the Democrats have been always friendly to many nations. Like my friend George had said, they will probably be friendly to some of the foreign countries. And this is what will inform mostly the engagement between other countries. And that is why largely the US elections are extremely important to any country across the earth. Not only because of the dollar being the base of exchange, but more importantly on how you will engage the US president post the elections.
We did see during the state visit the President, William Ruto, open a store, Vivo Kenya to be specific. What are the prospects looking like, especially for Kenyans who wish to explore economic chances and prospects in the US?
Very important question. Business here is very open. This country is greatly unopened for businesses. The President came and opened some business for one of our Kenyans in Atlanta, I think, Georgia. Yeah. And US has been trying so much as possible to be pro-business. They encourage businesses. In fact, one of the promises, and I think some of my colleagues here can follow, she's promising at $25,000 for any startup businesses. When you start a business here, you're going to be given $25,000 to start a business. So that means they will encourage as local, as young investors as possible to start a business. And to whatever they are doing is to make conducive as much as possible to bring jobs here, to bring any investments here, and to invest locally.
Indeed. James, thank you for staying on the line for us. There is the issue of deportation and the immigration issue, which is really a thorn in the flesh. And either side has said how they will deal with this. Looking at the number of people that could be targeted in this, how do you think the messaging has been made in terms of those who could be affected, and what are their options, depending on who takes this presidency?
One of the most important things in the United States, there are so many options when it comes to immigration. There are so many loopholes where you can find an option of your survival in the United States. We have several people who just came to visit. And due to the policies that are here in the United States, they are able to work, they're able to earn a living, they're able to go to the school, they're able to graduate from here because they are given what we call the social number. And the best thing with the United States right now is that every immigrant has a right. Either you have a status or you don't have a status. Yes, there is that fear, as I said, for those people who think they don't have a status. But I want to give an assurance to our people, or rather to any immigrant who is listening tonight and who may want to travel over from Kenya to the United States. The most important thing is, as long as you have come through an airport, you're not considered an illegal immigrant. But because of the lack of enough knowledge, tend to fear more because they're not able to dig out who is illegal and who is not illegal. So people think if I don't have a paper, or rather I am here as a visitor, I'm not legal. As long as you are vetted by the custom when you're coming in the United States, you didn't cross over a river, my brother Benson will attest to that, or you did close over the border by jumping over, you are safe, and I believe you're in a good position. Yeah.
Let's close with you from the U.S. On this issue of, progressive conversations moving forward. You've talked about the red and blue states, the swing states as well. What is the projection, especially from where you sit, in terms of the election and the electoral college?
When it comes to the U.S. elections, it's kind of different from the elections back home in Kenya. So over here, they use the electoral college to determine who's going to win. Remember, Donald Trump in 2016 lost the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won the majority vote, but lost the electoral college. In 2020, Joe Biden won the popular vote and also went on to win the electoral college. In 2024, it comes down to those few margins, those swing states, which are going to decide who is going to be the next president. Remember, there are only 5 presidents in the history of America who have lost the popular vote and went on to win the electoral college. Trump being the recent president, actually, who lost in 2016, who lost the popular vote and went on to win the electoral college. So right now, the states which actually will determine who's going to win the presidency seat is Michigan and Pennsylvania. For the Democrats, they have a big issue in Michigan because, number one, the Arab American voters. There's an issue going on in Gaza right now with Israel. 1 year down the lane, the Biden administration has not yet cooled down the tempers over there between Israel and Hamas. And remember, during before Biden stepped down, most Arab American voters voted and committed because they wanted to hear his say when it comes to the issues of the Israel-Hamas war. Right now, Kamala Harris is yet to address that issue effectively. And during the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, no Arab American voter was given an opportunity to talk during the convention. Donald Trump has met with them recently, and some of the Muslim leaders have endorsed him. Remember, Michigan in 2020 turned blue in favor of Joe Biden. In 2016, Michigan voted red in favor of Donald Trump, and I remember Trump won the blue wall, changed it from Trump won Michigan, won Pennsylvania, and ended up winning Wisconsin. So right now it comes down to those 3 swing states. Kamala has to win 3 of them. He cannot lose either of it. He has to win those 3 blue states in order for her to become the president. For Trump, he can use Georgia, he can use Nevada, he can use North Carolina, and just swing either Michigan and Pennsylvania, and he's back to the White House. And when it comes to the election, remember there is also 7 seats, Senate seats which are up for grabs. Right now the House is 49-44 because there's some 7 seats among the Democrats where they'll be going for elections. So in order, even if, let's say, Kamala wins and she doesn't have the majority in the House, she'll not have some of the powers to pass some of the policies. And if Trump wins and he doesn't have the majority in the House, then that means he won't have power to pass whatever he wants to, because when it comes to the issue of immigration, Trump has said he wants to deport 1 million immigrants, illegal immigrants to the U.S. Let's remember, the U.S. president who deported most immigrants during his tenure was Barack Obama. That's why he was known as chief deporter. He deported a lot of illegal immigrants. Trump, whatever he's saying regarding the deportation of illegal immigrants won't happen if he doesn't have the support of the Senate. So these 7 seats which are up for grabs in the Senate, the Republicans, the Democrats, are fighting for those seats, because whoever wins needs to have majority in the Senate. Because remember also the issue of the Supreme Court. The judges over there, most of them are Republicans, and we have 3 Democrats. So whoever wins needs to have the majority in the House and in the Senate for him or her to pass some of the policies they want. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much. George Manyanga, freelancer and graduate student, joining us from the Washington, D.C., outside the White House. Thank you, George. As well as Benson Cheserek, business and political analyst, joining us from North Carolina. And James Stanley, joining us also from Washington, D.C. Thank you, gentlemen, joining us from the States. Here in studio, I still have Mark Bichachi and Stephen Degwa. Mark, looking at how this campaign has gone, what are some of the, perhaps, even as you pick from the other point we had put on hold, what are some of the key lessons that our point is that perhaps Africa is yet to copy and notice in as much as elections and campaigns are managed?
Wow, that's quite a powerful question. I was talking to a friend of mine in the States, and I was telling them that now the United States knows how to have a tribal election because they have made it about communities. They have made it about religious bias, and by and large they've forgotten issues, for example, of the economy. It has taken quite a backseat in terms of what is directly emotive. It's become us versus them. The 2 candidates hardly agree on anything. If you ask them the color of the sky, they will tell you it's either red or blue, and therefore there's quite a difference. But at the same time, the decorum with which the United States has carried this election. We've seen the Republicans apologizing for calling Puerto Rico a garbage heap and things like that. So these are things that make their politics a bit more sanitary than what Kenya is. But also, this is the second time we are seeing the power of a politician in casting aspersions in an electoral system. Trump has already started singing that if he loses, it will be because it has been rigged. And you've seen for the first time in a very long time that the American people are actually discussing about whether the elections are safe, secure, and reliable. You might think that they have Chebukati there as well, and Raila Odinga and the rest of that ilk. But at the same time, you also have seen some very sad statements, statements that usually would pass in Kenya in previous times. When you say that certain groups of people eat cats and dogs, it is lowering the value of a people. We know what people have used politically in this country before, talking about people's diets, about animals with necks and what have you. So definitely it's a mixed bag of things. But back to Kenya, and one of the things that I think we must also recognize is the non-NATO, and this is back to the point that was being made before, the non-NATO ally is not just tokenism. There's quite an amount of military equipment that Kenya has received, but not only that, there's an amount of a certain level and certain classes of ammunitions that Kenya can now access from the United States. Now, this may seem like a small thing, but let's remember that Kenya is a country that is surrounded by conflict, from Congo to Burundi to South Sudan to Sudan itself to Ethiopia to Somalia. So Kenya's ability to project military power and to project its alliances across the world is also quite critical, not only in the actual fight, because we don't expect Kenya to go into a conflict, but also as a deterrent that those who are our enemies, including such terror organizations as Al-Shabaab, will think twice when we have guided precision missiles, and we don't need to send our boys there to deal with them. So there is certain military uses for this non-NATO ally. But for me, in a nutshell, the American election for once has taught us that just being Western does not necessarily make you better than us, and they can make as irresponsible and frankly foolish statements as some of our politicians make. And that also gives us as an opportunity as Africans to project our intellect, to project our ideas, and actually help them to know that elections can be free and fair. And if you disagree, you don't storm the Capitol, you go to the Supreme Court and you deal with it the way it's supposed to be done. So it's a mixed bag, really.
Stephen, the ties between Kenya and the US, of course, they've been there for a while. These are policies that, each presidency comes and builds upon. Of what importance should Kenya then, whoever comes in, ensure that whatever has been agreed upon in the past still continues, whereas its policy, it's on paper, just to ensure that even as whoever comes in with their policies, whatever was agreed upon still stands?
I think that's a tough one to do because, as I said, beggars cannot be choosers. So we cannot go and start telling the US, you remember, you promised this, you promised that. We are beholden to their magnanimity. And if they decide, if they tell you, wait, just as it has happened, you look at the precedents that they have set, we have no clout to pull strings and tell the US, now we are calling this, can you meet this side of the bargain, or we are going to do one or two things outside it, okay? So you can see even now, for example, the CIA chiefs coming around and the M16 guys coming around. We do not have the power to withstand their pressure, okay? And in fact, we are even, let me just be honest, we are children when compared to them, okay? It's a parent-children relationship, okay? Because we cannot stand up to them, and that is because of the way we are wired in this country, okay? I don't believe we can do like the way they have said the Botswana president has said, told the US bases you need to pack up, or the Nigeria guy who said you also need to pack up, because we derive a lot of, not as a country really, but I think there's a lot of personal interests between people in government and whatever comes from the US. But if we looked at ourselves as a country, I think we will start calling out some of the false promises that we have got, okay? It's someone who was telling me, for example, that when it comes to these peacekeeping forces, you find Kenya being sent to Haiti, Somali, and so forth. But there's some action going on in the DRC, where you have a lot of, that is where there's minerals, serious minerals, okay? That is where now you find Belgium soldiers, French soldiers, they bring Western soldiers to that place because there's a lot of business going there that is done by the West that they need to go and protect. So for me, I think we in Kenya need to write our own script, first of all, and Africa in general. Can we write our own script and say, we better be poor but have dignity, you see? But the problem, as I said again, is greed. Our leaders, most of those who negotiate some of these things, they don't do it for the country. They will do it because they think that they can get contracts to do this or that. They can get visas to go outside to the US when they want and so forth, for vested interests. But if we looked at ourselves as a country, I think we have not benefited that immensely from having a US relation, but the perception, the US, of course, is built on perception, okay? It's Coca-Cola, so Coca-Cola, is just colored water, for example, and all that, but it's one of the biggest brands in the world. So it is that kind of thing, the hype that is there is a lot, but when you go on the ground, as they say in Swahili, kwa ground is different, you see. So I think we need to come up with our own foreign policy, and then we see where we can meet halfway with these guys. And if they cannot be able to deliver for us real life-changing, transformative kind of action, then I think there's no need. We would rather just continue struggling and, and grow organically rather than trying to import the American dream, Yeah.
What precedences will be set in this election? For whoever takes it?
Well, if Kamala Harris takes it, then a very big glass ceiling will have been broken for the women of the world. I personally identify as Democrat, and therefore I would love it to see Kamala Harris win. It would be very good for the women of the world. It will be very good for the rights of women in the United States. It will be good generally. If Donald Trump wins, then the precedent is that the world order as we know it is going to change. Now, for me, that's not a bad thing. Because I, like my brother here, agree that the United States hegemonic control on the world is not fair, because it's not control that is based on an equal footing. It is control that is heavily skewed towards the United States. And therefore, when the United States make mistakes, you know, sometimes when the elephants fight, the grass that is not under their feet gets to grow somewhere else. And those are the opportunities that will be there. Trump will then, of course, be competing with Biden at some point of being the oldest president that the United States has seen, but he represents a significant change in terms of world policy, in terms of things like NATO, in terms of how different rights of different groups have gone. All of those things will significantly change if Trump gets into power. And one of the things that is going to be very interesting to watch is if he actually does put his plan 2025 into action. I think it's going to be amazing to see him basically roll out a shareholder kind of thing the way Rigiji did. Yeah, but because that's a plan, basically, that they're shareholders and those are the people who should hold positions and things like that. So it's going to be interesting for the world to watch. Now, for Africa, and I say this specifically for Kenya, and I have skewed very heavily in terms of our diplomacy and our importance in the region and things like that. I think for Kenya, when you're dealing with a giant like the United States, you need to be cunning. Right? You need to be the rabbit in the grass. You need to be, you need to be, as Jesus said, as gentle as a dove, but as cunning as a serpent when it comes to this. And that is what is required. Kenya might not have the privilege that Botswana has, because Botswana is a very comfortable country. It's per capita one of the richest countries in Africa, and it can per capita compete with some countries even in Europe. So it has the benefit of telling the United States, listen, we produce 100,000 diamonds a day, so you can pack up your bags and go. Kenya does not have such privilege. So our diplomacy has to be more crafty, more clever, more and whatever their magnanimity is shown to us, Kenya needs to be clever enough to know how do you use that particular stage, that particular status to get your little pound of flesh.
Yeah, I think I can pick up something he talked about in the presidency. Yeah?
Yes.
I think the fact that it might be time now for the US to elect a woman president. I remember that I may have to swallow my own words, because after Hillary was not elected, then I was always questioning, why does America sell this to other countries? You know, they can come and tell us, oh, women power, blah, 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 but they do not practice what they preach. So if Kamala picks it now, then it will show some, but you can see, of course, she will pick it by default, okay? It's not that she has risen through, because she just came up from with Biden, okay? And so she has that benefit, and it was like predicted that that is how a woman president would come, that she would be deputy, and then the person who is the incumbent might not be able to stand again, either through death or something, and then so there is that precedence that could be set. But what I would like to say is that we need to look at the bigger picture. Apart from the politics in America, America is not what most people perceive here. And I think if you look at social media, it will tell you what kind of society America now is. It's a society in chaos, okay? First of all, you have to learn to know that America is now it's a post-truth society, if you know what I mean by post-truth, yeah? That things are happening that are just surreal. You know, they are breaking down every rule in the book, whether it is religion, whether it is science. They're trying to recreate a world, another world. And so you find that there's a lot of confusion, social. Okay, my sister has been in the US for at least 2 decades. And she was saying that they're also praying that there's no violence after the election. I mean, as he said, you don't expect to hear that in America, okay? That they're fearing that there could be violence, especially because the elections will be too close to call, okay? So there's a lot of fear that Trump, you know what he did last time, yeah? And so, yes, we pray for that. Okay. When it comes to immigrants, of course, Trump saying that they're eating dogs and everything is because it is perceived that the Democrats are the ones who are letting in the immigrants so that they can use them as the next, years to come, they'll be used as voting fodder, okay, for the Democrats and all that. So I think yes, America will decide, but the bigger picture, I think we need to start looking inward, okay? We need to start looking at ourselves and saying, what is it that we can offer rather than what can other people offer us, so that we are now starting to bargain, because you can see small countries, and I've been here before and I've said Israel, you can see it holds the US by some, part of the body that you may not want to mention on there.
All right.
Why? Yes.
Let's indeed. And what are we to end up the conversation? Yes. Mark Bichachi, thank you for joining us. An analyst and communication strategist. Stephen Dego, international relations expert. And earlier on we had George Manyange from the US, a freelancer and graduate student. Benson Cheserek, a business and political analyst, as well as James Stanley, a political analyst. That's where we wind up the conversation tonight. My name is George Maringa. On sign language interpretation has been Catherine Simaloy. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another.